Figure drawing pretty much feeds into everything that any student could do in any program in the school. You need figure drawing, you need color theory, composition, perspective. It just so happens that figure drawing and painting do all of those things. The painting area in this building has serious advantages to students because it is built for artists. The lighting here is adjustable. All our windows in here are north facing, and each room is vented individually to prevent any fumes or anything like that, so it's completely safe. If a student were to go into graphic design, painting, drawing in general, you'll use everything that we teach in figure drawing and painting. How to handle paint, how to apply paint, the chemistry of the whole process. They all feed into each other. The time and money spent going to UA Little Rock is definitely worth it. The students can expect to get a very useful and good education here at UA Little Rock. Hello everyone. Thanks for joining me for my painting demonstration. As the intro video showed, I'm the painting and drawing instructor here at UA Little Rock. Today I'm going to do a little still life painting demonstration for you, but the subject of today's talk is going to be mostly about the myth of talent. Okay? I'm going to ask you guys to please chime in and ask questions throughout the video. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have. Okay? Before we get started with this painting, I'd like to show you my little setup here. I've cheated a little bit, and I've mixed a lot of my own paints already. And what I've got here is my mixture of paints, and I've got a little liquid here. This is a medium you add to the paint to make it a little more slippery, and it also helps it to dry a little faster. I'm using some regular synthetic sable brushes, nothing too fancy. And before I get started, I also want to say that the common misconception with art and painting is that you have to be talented to do it. And so today I'm going to show you through my process that you do not have to be talented and that anyone can do it if you want to. All right? But a few things you need to learn how to paint is a good instructor like myself, and you need a good process. Okay? It's a process just like anything else. Don't let it intimidate you. The problem with painting, and painting a scene like we have here today, is that yes, it's just a simple pot and a plastic apple on a blanket. But honestly, that's a really complex thing to have to paint, to sit down and paint. However, in order to simplify this stuff so that it's not so complex, you need to break this thing down into basic shapes, into a basic value plan. And the value plan, actually values are darks and lights, basically. And the value plan we have here is our scene lit with a single light source, okay? And it's going to work just like this simple sphere here that I have as an example. In other words, this scene will have the same value structure as this sphere here, only it'll have color, right? So I'm going to go ahead and get started here. And another way to simplify this scene is to, as far as process, is to start with the darks first. So I'm going to start with the darks in this vase first. Nothing too fancy here. We're just going to put these values in here like they belonged in the first place. A what? A base or a splash. A splash? What's a splash? Did I use a base? I don't know. Ask them to repeat the question. Oh, basically what I'm working on here. Oh, okay, yeah, the background. So I went ahead and drew the picture out because you can't make a good painting out of a bad drawing. You always have to have a good drawing first. So don't underestimate drawing classes in the beginning. But what I have here is just a basic masonite panel, okay, that's gessoed on the front. Gesso is the thing that makes it white and separates your paint from the surface. And then I stained the canvas with an acrylic, a thin acrylic. And what that does is it establishes a mid-tone, okay? And that's really important because painting is a comparative process. And if I started out with a white canvas, which you could do, it wouldn't be that big of a deal, but it really helps the comparative process if you start with a toned canvas. Now, if you'll notice, I don't do a whole lot of blending in the beginning. That's a common mistake that a lot of beginners painting, beginning painters make, is that they start blending too early. And what that does, if you do it too early, is kind of destroys all that separation that you were working for earlier. All right, now I'm going to move on to the darks in the apple. Now at first this is going to look really carved with a lot of planes and stuff, but don't worry about that in the beginning is my recommendation. Because you can go back and blend and make everything look soft later on. All right, now I'm going to get into the surrounding area. I wonder how many people we got watching. Do we know? All right, now I'm going to move on to the background. This actually belongs to the dark portion of the painting. Now, as I move along, you'll slowly see this thing come together. That's another thing I teach my students often. It's something I have to reiterate often is trust the process. I know it's hard to trust it if you've only done it a couple of times, but the more you do it, the more you learn to trust it. All right, now we're going to move up the value scale a little bit. We've simplified already by doing the darks first on most of our items here. And now we can start moving up the value scale a little bit. And forgive my speed here. I'm trying to hurry up so that I finish within a 30-minute window. I think I can do it. You think I can do it? Good. Yes, I've been interested in painting my entire life. You know, typical story. I loved it when I was little. But what actually got me started interested in painting, funny enough, was looking at my father's album covers. He had a stack of album covers that filled the room, you know, and so he let me sit and just be mesmerized over them for hours at a time. And, you know, I don't know how album covers are these days, but back then they were full of art and just graphic design, illustration, and all kinds of cool stuff. So that kept me busy when I was little, and that's actually made me want to decide to become an artist, because I wanted to do art like that. But yeah, I guess what got me interested in painting other than that is sci-fi and fantasy illustration. I've always been really into that stuff, and it just so happened that the fantasy illustrators that I was into were all traditional painters. For still objects, I prefer oil paint in almost everything. I mean, there's a few good uses for acrylic paint, but most of the time oil paint is a better answer because it's malleable. It doesn't dry right away. It gives you a little time to move stuff around. And trust me, anytime I sit down to paint, I'm going to want to move stuff around. For my BFA to learn to paint, I went to the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design in Colorado, in Denver. And I mean, I mostly learned to paint in those places, but I always tell everyone that, you know, a good work ethic will teach you to paint as good as anything else. And I had some really good instructors there too. All right, so I'm going to move up the value scale a little bit with this pot. And this, I'll emphasize again that, you know, controlling the order in which you add values to the painting really helps determine whether it's going to be successful or not. Can I paint other objects too? Yes, absolutely. The reason why I chose this very simple setup today was because I was confident in the fact that I could finish it within a short time frame. If you use simplified shapes, if you are aware of how to simplify the scene, you can paint anything you want. For blending color, yes, actually, I'm very strict about that in my classes, because what you don't want to do, and I'll demonstrate this right here in this spot, what you don't want to do is blend by just sweeping the brush across areas, okay? You want to choose where to blend very locally. You don't want to move it around too much. So in other words, if on that pot over there, I have a soft transition from dark to light right here, I don't want to go in and just start smudging stuff around. What I like to do is just kind of ride the edge like that. Maybe move the brush around a little bit and just tease little areas to blend. And I never deviate from the still life over here. I'm constantly looking over there to see what needs to be done. The wrong thing to do is to go in and try to make this stuff up as you go. That's not how it works. There are a few people in the world who can paint without using a setup, or, you know, they can paint without working from any reference at all, but those people are really rare and have probably had a lot of practice. My best what? Oh, that's a tough one to answer, because I'm not sure what my best work of art is. Normally it doesn't take me that long. The things that I'm most pleased with in my art practice usually are things that don't take a super long time to do. Because I don't know if this counts for other artists, but for me, the more I have to think about it and fuss about it, the less I like it. see already with just a little bit of stuff that I've done and my willingness to simplify this thing, it's already starting to take on a three-dimensional look, which is exactly what we want. All right, now I'm going to move on to our apple and work on the lighter values there. And honestly, there's not a big difference in how you paint like cool stuff like dragons and fairies and how you paint something traditional like this. It's all the same process and the same lighting knowledge. So if you like stuff like, fairies and anime and sci-fi stuff, don't let this traditional stuff discourage you, because most of the people that do art like that learn to do things like that by doing things like this. How are we doing on time, you guys? I have no idea where I'm at. About 15 minutes? 13? So we're about halfway, okay. Well, I'm doing a little better on time than I thought. I may actually get done with this thing. I think it's worth mentioning too, because a lot of people think detail is what makes a good painting, or the ability to do detail is what makes a good painter, and that could not be further from the truth. It's better for a painter to learn to simplify and to do the large elements than it is to do detail. Now, I'm not knocking on detail. You need to learn detail, but I can do more with less detail than with more detail. It's not hard at all. It hasn't really interfered with my teaching abilities or my ability to teach. We are sure to wear masks, and we're sure to stay within 6 feet of each other, and that's pretty much all the protocols that we really need to follow. Now, we actually sterilize the rooms and stuff too. It took me a while. It took a lot. It was a lot of work for me to learn to paint. It really was. But mainly because I overcomplicated the process in the beginning. If I would have had teachers and instructors that showed me how to simplify sooner than what I did, I would have caught on a lot quicker. Simplification is the key. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, no matter how weird you might think they are, I'll answer it. My favorite type of painting is very loose and very painterly oil painting. That's my favorite. And I think probably to unpack that a little more, I really like figurative and portrait paintings. You know, those types of works really express human emotion in a way that really clicks with me. I do want to paint for the rest of my life. I'd be quite happy if I could paint for the rest of my life, honestly. Yeah, it's very gratifying. I love painting. One reason is because it's very zen. It's very meditative. You get yourself in a mode, in the zone, some people say, of painting, and you're there, and it's a very pleasurable state of mind to be in. Have I taught? You know, it's a weird. I have to answer that in a weird way because I was teaching actually before I taught here at UA Little Rock. What got me into wanting to teach was me offering private lessons in North Louisiana for people who wanted to learn to paint. And after a while of doing it, I just kind of found that I really enjoyed showing people what I knew about painting. And I taught when I was in grad school a little bit as a student instructor. And then once I graduated, I got right into teaching at a university level. What do I do when I have no inspiration? Well, that question kind of answered itself because if I find I have kind of artist block and I'm not inspired, I look at my favorite artists for inspiration, and it always works. I'll just go to like Pinterest or something and start flipping through images, and I get fired up about it. My favorite artist right now, let me think. My favorite artist right now is a contemporary figurative and landscape painting artist named Jeremy Mann. His last name is spelled M-A-N-N. Very inspiring stuff. Oh. Yeah, so texture in oil painting is often referred to as impasto. And basically all you have to do to add texture to a painting is just paint really thick with a brush. And if that doesn't satisfy you and you want it to be even thicker, use a palette knife. Palette knife like this. And you can just get it and scoop the paint up like that and lay it on like cake icing. You can get it as thickly as you want. And funny thing enough, as long as you follow these rules, you can still make things look three-dimensional even though you're painting thickly. But I prefer textured, thick painting. You know, I've got the attitude of like, you know, I'm not ashamed of the fact that it's a painting. I don't want it to look like a photograph. I want it to look like a painting. And the best way to do that is paint on thick and just let that paint stand off the canvas. So now I'm going to go in after I've already put all the basic values and things in and start adding highlights. This is where the really bright stuff starts coming in. I've gotten in the habit of painting every day. I paint every day. Just because I enjoy it so much. And Instagram keeps me honest. I post on Instagram a lot, so if I don't have anything new to post, that means I need to paint, and usually that's every day. I do. I don't have it quite up and running just yet. I will pretty soon, though. That's up and coming. All right, we need some highlights in our apple. Rickatroid, R-I-C-K-A-T-R-O-I-D. We can be friends forever if you go in and follow me on Instagram. And I actually do quite a lot of different kinds of art. I've got a landscape series that I do some figurative works. I do still lives, anything I can get my hands on, I'll usually try it out. Okay. Let's see here. What do I need to do to this thing? Add this. How much time we got left? 5 to 10? Okay. I got a few more minutes. So if you guys have any final questions for me, I'm here for you. If you have any further questions after today's video, my email address is rwsikes@ualr.edu. I'll answer any questions you have regarding painting, school. Don't be shy. I went to illustration school to learn to be an illustrator at the Rocky Mountain College of Art and Design. You don't have to move to Colorado though to learn to paint. You can learn to paint here. How'd that amp up here? I was actually offered a teaching position here at UA Little Rock, and that's what brought me here. Can I teach them how to paint like me? I would love to teach them how to paint like me. That's what I do. Get in touch with me via email, and I'll do what I can. So you can see that with just a little bit of simplification and some knowledge on how to use paint, I'm able to create a somewhat satisfactory 3D illusion on a two-dimensional surface. I'm kind of pleased with it. I mean, it's not perfect, but imagine what you could do with something like this if you had more time. In other words, I'll say it like this, look how much I was able to accomplish in such a short period of time. And I would not be able to do that, unless I knew how to simplify the scene with a basic plan like that. And actually in my Painting 1 class, I'll have all my students paint this exactly the way they see it so that they can get used to translating real life with that basic plan in mind. Chaos. What aspects of painting? You know, honestly, as far as, you know, what I do as a painter, I like the way painting looks. I mean, I teach drawing and stuff too, and that stuff is equally as important. But painting's my favorite because I love the end results of painting and how they look. It's so rewarding to step back and, you know, with the use of color and values and everything and how it all comes together at the end. I mean, I guess it's like a personal thing, but painting's my favorite for that. You okay for a while? Okay. Okay. So if there's anything that I would prefer you take away from what we've learned today, it's that you do not have to be talented in order to achieve art like this. Anybody can do it. But again, you need a good plan, you need a good process, and you need a good teacher like myself. I'd be glad to send you some images of my work, or you could just get them off of Instagram because most of my stuff is there. If you want to come to the school, because a lot of my work is here spread around the classroom, you're welcome to come and I'll give you a tour of the room. And then we can talk about me giving you one of my paintings. Maybe. Depends on which one you like. Okay. So it looks like we're going to wrap up here pretty quick. If you guys have any questions for me specifically, again, my email is rwsikes@ualr.edu. And my Instagram handle is Rickatroid, that's Rickatroid. We about done? I can tell them goodbye. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining me. I hope this turned out okay, and I hope it looks good on camera. Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure.